Welcome to the Model Car Hobby Podcast with your host, Luka C. Now here he is, Luka C.
Well, hello, my fellow car modelers. How are you doing today? Welcome back to another Model Car Hobby Podcast. And I have got a new guest here, someone you probably don't recognize him, but I bet you anything, if you're a regular on the Facebooks, you're going to know this guy's work. I got Lewis Hicks here with me.
How's it going?
I got to say, Lewis, you are like the young guns, one of the young guns, a newcomer. You just kind of hit the scene just a couple of years ago with some amazing models. You've been going to a lot of the shows over on the East Coast and really killing it. And how we met is doing kind of like work with Joel from Iceman Collections. You did the box art for his off-road truck he did a couple years ago, and I did videos on it and used your box artwork on my videos and thumbnails. And we got to talking, and you helped me out with some stuff and sent me something, so I knew how to put it together. We got talking from then on, and you've been a regular member of my Facebook group and everything. And man, you put out some really incredible builds. And there's a whole group of you guys. You're like, what, you're in your late 20s?
Yep, 29.
And you're new. To me, you're very new to this thing, and you're just hitting the road running here, man. Your stuff is impressive, and everybody talks about it when they see your stuff. I hear about it. So I wanted to have you on because it's neat to I want to get some perspective from you, because you I want to let you tell your whole story, your modeling life story. Again, hate to say it, I'm in the 40th year straight of model car building in this hobby, watching it change over the years, meeting all these people. And heck, I think that was before you were born. And
yeah.
And so it's interesting to get the take from the younger builders coming in that are really killing it. And man, I'm glad you came on the show. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Happy to. And why don't we let you come up in the forefront here? And why don't you tell, where did it all start for you? What got you building models? How long, when did you start building models? Your whole thing? What was, things that were like turning points in the hobby for you?
So I actually started building when I was about 6. I built pretty consistently until about 19. And of course, college happened. I stepped away for a while and then got back to it about 5 years ago. And I'm sure that COVID played a part in that, but
oh yeah,
I started building because my whole childhood I was into cars. And when my mom got together with what would become my stepdad, he saw the interest and he built models growing up. So he got me some of the Testors 1/43rd scale metal kits. It was a 49 Merc and a Dodge Viper, and both of them were done in a couple hours. So he immediately went out. There used to be a Hobby Town right down the street, and he went and got me, I think it was the 97 Dodge Viper, actually the same kit Justin Ryan's working on.
Oh yeah,
that lasted about 2 days, and I dropped the windshield in glue, so that was gone. But he went and got me a General Lee kit, and that ended up being my first Skill 2 kit that I had built. The one kit that always stuck out was the Hawaiian funny car from Polar Lights. My stepdad wouldn't let me build it, but he got it for me because he said it was too advanced, that I had to get some other Skill 2s under my belt before I could do it, which it didn't matter. A year later, I was digging into that kit, and I destroyed it. It was no point in even continuing on it. But yeah, I just kept going from there. About 8 or 9 years old, my stepdad at that point worked at a gas station, and late at night had a lady come in that needed change for a toy show. So they got to talking, found out her husband sold model kits, and I went over maybe a week later, and of course all my allowance and everything I took with me, left with a couple kits, found out he was part of a model club out of Pennsylvania, because we lived in Pennsylvania at the time. Well, I got up there. Of course, at that age, I had never met anyone else that built models. had never had any interaction. So I walk over to the table where everyone's displaying their cars, and I'm picking them up, looking at the underside and all. Well, the very first person to talk to me there was Marcus Cruz. And I'll never forget it. He came over, he goes, "Hey, man, is that yours?" Nope. Like, well, you can't be picking them up. So, okay. I stayed consistently going to that club with Marcus Cruz was there, Chris Collar was there, Bill Geary was there. So I had all these big name builders that I grew up around that were always there if I needed help, always there for guidance. Like, it helped a lot. So I had built friendships with all these guys on top of them being mentors. So I left and went to college, kind of just disappeared. I didn't tell anybody I was going. And then when I came back from college, I think I built maybe 2 kits and didn't continue going to the club for a while. Their annual show I would go to. And one of the kits was an Aoshima truck that I just was trying to get back into building. That kit didn't even come home with me. That was some guy wanted to buy it and said sayonara, it could go. My first real kit back to building was a Duster. And at that point, I decided to dive full in. I wanted a full X275 car. So engine from Iceman got ordered. At this point, me and Joel hadn't talked at all. That was ordered. I made a hood, made a wing, ordered some wheels out of Ukraine because he was the only guy producing, modern beadlock wheels at that point. And from there, I've been pretty much back to building since.
You hit some interesting points, and you had some heavy hitters in that club. That's kind of like when I first found my club. I was 2-3 years into building, and when I found my club, there were some guys that back in those days, they would get into the magazine and they would win up in like shows like Salt Lake, and they were like great mentors to have. That's what helped me out. It sounds like it. Then that totally makes sense. By seeing your work, get involved in clubs, meet other builders, it really changes everything for you, and it creates great friendships.
Yes,
it really does. And
that's I would try to tell that we do. So my club that I'm part of, we just had 5 junior members join, and I've tried to stress to them and their parents, like, bring them to the shows, let them meet people. I said, there's no better feeling than that kid's work being recognized at a show in front of everybody.
Yep.
And I think I've mentioned it to you before. We took a vote that these juniors can build whatever they want. We don't care if it's Gundam, Airs, nothing. Build it, bring it, put it on the table, have fun. More
and more, I'm seeing that becoming more the norm at model car shows, that they're letting the juniors do whatever, especially Gundam. Yeah. It's like, my grandson, he has really switched over. He built some cars, and he really has an interest in building model cars, and he had fun. It was mostly a hangout with Grandpa. And then he got into building the Bandai. I started him on these really simple little Pokemon models. Okay. Right? I agree with you, man. It's like get to the shows, meet people. And you said the kids, they get recognized like that for building something that they are passionate about building. And,
well, that's growing up. My best friend at the time was part of the model club.
Yeah.
And granted, we would both make magazines because we used to have the Mid-Atlantic NNL at the it was an armory, so it was massive. We had 2 basketballs upstairs that were all vendors. Then we had a model display room downstairs, and Scale Auto would always come. So we would make it in the magazines, but he would always edge me out on something. So finally, the last year, we agreed I was going to build an AMC Pacer, and he was going to build a Gremlin. And we were just going to duke it out on that year because it was our last year as juniors. And I finally got him that year. So that was.
That's always a fun, having like a friendly rivalry. It's a friendly rivalry. You guys are buddies. I had one of those too when I was coming up, and it was like I was always set out. I just want to beat him, beat him one day, and just for the sake of, if I get to that level where I can get somewhere past this builder that's been my mentor, then it's like you reach that point that you're getting to, and then you move on farther, and it's always kind of just a fulfillment thing, and it's fun, and they're always happy for you too.
That's so Kenny, when on your page. So
Kenny, man.
When we first met, we didn't get along.
Well, no, Kenny.
So since we've become friends, and me and another member on your page, Christoph Collins,
Mm-hmm.
we finally started pushing Kenny, and at first he thought we were being like assholes.
Yeah.
And now he's realizing that we were just trying to help him along, and he's doing awesome. Like, I'm so happy to see him progress to where he's at.
Yeah, he's a fantastic builder.
Christoph Collins.
Yeah.
If you see stuff in a magazine under Chris Collar, that's him.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah.
Good to know. Does he want everyone?
I don't know why he put his name on there as that, but whatever.
It's great to see all you guys coming on. It's actually rare now. It wasn't so much when I was in my 20s. There was a lot of guys in their 20s that were building model cars, especially as we got closer to our 30s. But there still was a lot of older people. I mean, when I came in, I was actually, when I came in on it, I started at 18. I didn't really build much as a kid. But when I got into my club, I was 20 and everybody was 40 something, you know, just about. And I became good friends with them all. Some of them are still around. They're still in my model club. They're dear friends to me. It wasn't so rare back then, but nowadays, and I think it's more cars. I think cars are not as big of a subject for the younger generations.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see guys your guys' age and everything kind of keeping the hobby going of model car building and being so into cars. Boy, you don't have one set thing you do. You have all these different that's the way I am. It's like you got an interest. You love motorsports, I can tell. And it's not like just one particular one. You like race cars.
Yeah.
And you like, you know, all the other stuff too, you know, muscle cars, whatever.
I grew up around drag racing with a very strict family that were very stuck on that there's no replacement for displacement. We've all seen that proven wrong now. So, you know, there's a love for the 90s imports because I grew up with Fast and Furious as the car movie.
Mm-hmm.
But there's always that love for the muscle car that'll never go away. So between drag racing, muscle cars, imports, it is whatever I feel like building at that point.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know, we see that more with guys your age that are you're building, you know, all that stuff. You're starting to see a lot more imports. I love Tamiya kits, and I even owned a few. I love JDM cars. I love, especially, I'm a Datsun guy, from the early 80s. I love Datsuns.
Yeah.
I had my muscle cars. I've been into it all. I just love cars. I've always been like that. But most guys my age and a little older, they're really, really set in American muscle cars or street rods or stuff. So you didn't see a lot of the tuner cars or you know, Japanese, or, you know, I love BMW and Porsche 911s. I just love those.
Yeah.
And it's cool you're starting to see more of that because there's always been really great kits, but now we're starting to get more great kits coming out of that stuff too.
Well, I've always said that the subject that always impressed me the most at every model show was the imports.
Yeah.
You don't see them most of the time, but then all of a sudden these guys come out of the woodworks and these cars are gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. To see a really nice Skyline. I love Skyline, especially when it's one of the kits with the engine, and those engines are so cool looking. And it's neat that now with the 3D printing, like Joel, he's done, and a lot of the other guys, they've done import engines too. I like exotic engines, you know, something different. I've been building Chevy 350s for 40 years. I'm kind of like over it.
Yeah.
It's just I love seeing the different stuff like that coming out, and we're seeing that so much, especially with the fact that we have so much to choose from all the 3D printers.
Well, that's another plan of mine, is that new Starlet kit that came out. I fully plan to make that into a drag car.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Well, we have a local race is the import versus domestic. So we get all the guys from like Puerto Rico and all coming in with these Starlets that have these nasty rotary motors.
Wow.
Quarter-mile runs on the back tires. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. And those things rotaries are crazy. I don't think is there any kit, has there ever been a rotary engine done?
I believe Revell did an RX-7 that had a rotary in it.
Yeah, but was it like good?
Nice rotary engine? I don't know if anyone's ever made one. I actually had this conversation with Scott Colmer the other day.
Oh, really?
I've been doing some review kits for him, and he always asks me what I think. Well, I told him, I'm like, you have no idea how hard it is to use the kit motor anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I know that Joel is one order away, and I can get whatever I want for this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, boy, do I got a collection of engines and parts and things from Joel. And anytime he comes out with something that's weird, I gotta have it, you know.
Yep.
And I don't know what the heck I'm gonna do with it, but I gotta have it, you know.
Well, with resin stuff, you never know how long it's going to be available. Like
exactly, you know. And he's got some great designers working for him, and just more new guys coming on the scene. You're in like the perfect time for this hobby, where we had to be resourceful 20 years ago. Some of the other guys, well, you know, it takes a lot of that challenge out of it. You know, everybody's new, you know, they're not scratch building anymore. And it's like, nah, I think it's done nothing but enhance the hobby. I still do a lot of scratch, but it's still, I mean, you can't just throw this stuff into a model. Just, you know, it's not making the model building easier.
Yeah.
It's giving us more options to do cool, epic shit. You know?
If you get out of the drivetrain and the wheels and tires, there's still a lot of scratch building that you have to do.
Yeah.
You know, it's awesome that I can go get just about any engine I want between, you know, Iceman, Texas 3D, VCG. All of them are top-notch product.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I want an intercooler that has to fit a little spot that none of those guys make. You know, there's always something there. So the guys that want to argue that, it's your loss, not mine.
I've always considered this an art form. You know, we're expressing ourselves. We love the automobile, and we just get an opportunity to build these crazy ideas in our heads. And all these aftermarket companies that are putting out stuff to make it possible for to do. I mean, there's cars we never could do, and now we can. And ideas we always had, and it was a little bit more difficult to come up with. So it makes it easier, yes, but you still got to figure out a way to get that engine to fit in that model car. That's not always easy. That could be a challenge.
Yeah, and then to make it clean, where when you flip it over, it looks good.
Right.
Sometimes it's next to impossible.
Yeah, it's not just a drop it in type of thing.
Yep.
So there's always challenges in it, and that's what's fun about it. It's like Billy Strange said in a couple videos we did ago when we were talking about what we build models for. He brought it up. I never thought of it, and it was brilliant. He says it's the puzzle solving.
Yep.
It's like, oh, I never thought of that. That's brilliant. Yeah. And that is some puzzle solving when it comes to trying to fit one of Joel's engines or one of VCG Resin's engines into one of our other cars. Or heck, got a project with something from VCG Resins I'm going to start showing. Hopefully he starts putting out. It's a whole freaking chassis.
Oh yeah, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, this is going to be something really cool, and it's something I love, and it's a JDM. So that's about what I'll say about that one. I got to out on that. That's one of my planned 2025 builds that I want to do. That it's so cool to be able to have access to this stuff, and it still takes a heck of a lot of skill to put it together and make it work.
Well, yeah, and when you think about it, if we get the younger kids into this, like there's so many life lessons you can learn with it. Me and Chris Collar have been from New York City to Atlanta, Georgia together for these shows.
Awesome.
The conversation will almost always come up like I wouldn't know what an alternator was if it wasn't for my models. You know, you learn basic cars, you learn patience, you learn all this stuff just by these plastic kits. You know?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Early on when I started building, I was actually playing in rock bands like aggressively. Like every night I was at the clubs, and I worked I was a construction worker. So I worked all day. I don't know how I fit in the hobby, but I made it fit. I always had a hobby bench, any apartment I lived in. First thing I'd set up. I was always building. I was an oddity back then because, again, there was a lot of old guys, especially when I came in. I was just getting out of my band days, and I still had my long hair when I first joined my club, and they all kind of looked. Those old guys didn't know how to take me.
Yeah.
But I was always into cars. I had my first car, which was a car my dad bought new. You know, my age, I graduated high school in 1984. So muscle car era cars, a 69 Cutlass, like what was my first car, that was really only a 14-year-old vehicle. It wasn't really that old, but we had access to these. So everybody had, Chevelles and Camaros, and all my friends did.
Yep.
We just had them. Those were the cars that were available to us, and they were fun. And immediately when I really took over, when my dad said, "This is your car," and I actually cracked it up and I had to rebuild it. And that's when I really, I always was into cars since a little kid. Hot Wheels were my favorite. But that's when it really bit me. And when I was building model cars, I was learning about components to cars while I'm working on, not knowing anything about cars, working on my Cutlass as I'm building a model of a 69 GTO. And I'm kind of like, they're similar. There's okay, that's what that is. That's,
Yep.
So yeah, learned a lot from model building that went into cars.
Yeah.
Now, you get to learn a lot about cars, especially as I went on in life and got involved in racing, and I became a chassis. I love suspension and chassis, like my thing. I geek out about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my favorite part in building a model car. So you get that thing that you're really into and you put it into the models and try to make them as realistic. And then you think, would that really work if it was like that?
Yeah.
Probably. But you know what? This is a model car. I can fudge it.
Yep. Exactly.
Have fun with it, man. It's model cars. I never look at that. There's no way that would work. No, man. If it's cool, man, it's cool.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the art.
Look, Rob Ida has proven that where there's a will, there's a way.
Oh, absolutely.
Really, where the wheels bolt from the back.
Yeah.
Like, come on now.
Yeah. Like the first model I saw of yours, that off-road truck, which you built that thing lightning fast.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a deadline on that one, but it happened at a good time. Work was slow, so I wasn't crazy busy with that. And then side work had also gotten slow, so painting cars and motorcycles weren't really taking off. It just was perfect timing to be able to get it done.
Oh, so that's something that you do. You paint the real stuff, huh?
Yeah, I did it for so that's what I went to school for out in college. And then I came home. I was a body guy for most of my career in cars, but for a little while I'd taken over a head paint position, and me and the boss had to blow up whatever I left. About a year later, came back to the same shop, told him I would not paint anything for him. I'll be a body guy though. And then that lasted until I got into elevators. But then so I got the call to go to elevators 2 days after I got a raise.
Oh, so really?
I told my boss, I'm like, hey, I can only give you a 3-day notice. Or I lose this job. So I told him, but I told him I would finish any jobs that I had going on. So for the next few weeks, I was in and out, getting stuff done. And then one of his best friends called me. He owned a shop about 40 minutes from us. And he's like, hey, I need help. I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I sold all of my tools. I was done with that. He's like, I will buy every tool you need if you come do this. I'm like, okay. So me and him became extremely close and still are. But he has since grown to the point I only go when there's high-end work. Low-riding jobs or Ferraris or wide-body kits. That's all I touch anymore. And I'm extremely happy about that.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's now that really explains why your models turn out the way they do. Because when I first saw your work, I wondered, it had popped in my head, I wondered if that's what you did at any time for a living.
Yeah.
Because it definitely showed, especially, boy, that that yellow and black trophy truck. That paint was just incredible, and I could see, and I can't wait to one day see it in person, because to see it, I could tell that the way it was done, the way it was striped, the way it was cleared, no ridges. You could go right across that. You don't feel nothing, do you? You can totally see it, and and I know what it takes to do that and how that's done, and it's definitely someone with some skills that knows what they're doing. Do you use nothing but automotive paint, or
no? It's It depends on the project. I still use Tamiya, still use Mr. Hobby. I hate to say it, but I'll use that hardware store paint every now and then. But it's and whatever fits the purpose, you know.
Right.
I always tell everyone that wants to get into airbrushing, like there's going to be a learning curve, but take time, learn your airbrush, learn your product. If you can do two things, you'll master it. You know, and it's all a learning curve. It's just if you want to make the jump and how long you're willing to work on that to figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, there's a upcoming Auto Modeler magazine, the 50. I did a review. That is a Tamiya paint job.
Yeah.
So when that hits, you guys will see it. The last one I did was also a Tamiya paint job, the Falcon Asphalt Modified.
Oh, yeah.
But the Uncertainty, that was all automotive grade paint, everything.
Oh, that's right. The Uncertainty was beautiful. That turned out nice.
Thank you.
I'm not one, I still use rattle can. Actually, if I can use rattle can, if I can get away with that actually is the first thing I will grab. If I can get away with doing that, I just assume do that, depending on the model, especially when I do a lot of race cars and stuff like that, where it's just white. You know, I just would rather grab. But I am snobbish about the rattle can I grab. I am almost exclusively Tamiya when it comes to spray paint.
Yeah.
I don't want to say I hate airbrushing, but I really hate airbrushing. But I own 3 airbrushes. I've been airbrushing for 38 years, and I have done beautiful paint jobs with airbrushing, and I do it when it's needed, especially when I like to use a correct automotive color, and I used to manage a paint store, automotive paint store, so I could mix anything I want, and I would always mix it the way I'd want it to be for the models.
Yeah.
And I had quite a supply for a long time. That stuff only stays on the shelf for so long. So a lot of it's died on me. I had all these cool colors. But now there's companies like Splash and MCW and Scale Finishes and stuff. I like MCW. I ordered a bunch of, and I like getting the lacquers.
Yeah.
I ordered a bunch of his lacquers of all my favorite my factory colors, especially the Metal Flakes, because he uses that micro flake in there, and that makes all the difference.
Yes, it does.
That's it. When you got to airbrush, you got to throw that down. But,
well, I always feel like people overanalyze the process of painting.
Yes.
As long as you start with a good substrate, there's your foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you use decent product, you can get a decent return. And when the other junior builder that I would always, had the friendly rivalry with, his dad was also a builder. He's on your page too, Mike Forrester.
Oh, okay.
He told us, growing up, he's like, painting is no more difficult than getting that paint on that model and laying it decently smooth. So we both were out in he builds custom guitars. So we're out in his guitar shed, airbrushing these models. And I mean, we learned at an early age, it was way more simple as long as you started with it something decent and continued going.
Mm-hmm.
When an argument I just recently had was about airbrushes. I started airbrushing with the Harbor Freight setup. I got their compressor, their hose, their airbrush.
Yeah.
Well, that died on me mid-paint job on a 1-to-1 scale lowrider flake paint job on a bike. I ran to Hobby Lobby, grabbed the Iwata Neo, which they say is not good for oil-based paint. But that's what this whole argument was. Someone asked for a recommendation. I recommended the Neo kit because at $180 you get everything you need except for the paint.
Right.
So this guy argued with me, and I'm like, look, I have been consistently using this exact same airbrush for 4 years now, and I've never had a seal go bad, and I've soaked it in lacquer thinner. So explain to me how that's okay, but they say you can't use it. I said, you're giving people advice that isn't accurate, so there's no point in giving any at all.
Yeah.
If you can use it, prove you can. If you can't, prove you can't. My whole argument with Rust-Oleum, you can use it. If you spray it directly out of the can, you're not getting the results you're looking for.
No.
Between the nozzle and the propellant, you're throwing so much paint out, you're drowning the model.
Yeah.
If you can decant it and spray it through an airbrush, you're fine. It'll work. You might risk crazing the plastic, but if you put a decent primer like Tamiya down, you should be fine.
Yeah.
It's all in following these steps and learning your product that you're using. And a lot of people don't like to hear that. What works for them is that is the one and only way to do it, and that's how you have to do it.
Yeah.
But
yep, sometimes they close their minds on that stuff. Like you talk about that, the Iwata Neo. So I have two of them. First one I bought, gosh, I want to say it was around 2009 or so. I was still working at Swift Custom Paint, or Swift, the Swift motorcycles. The artist there, and also my friend Frank, he also did a lot of airbrushing there. But we had a specific artist that did all the art basically on the tanks and whatnot. And this guy was like the master of realistic flames. Remember, like in the late O's, early teens, realistic flames got really hot in everything. He was one of the best in the country. This guy was amazing. And he had Iwata brushes that were like $1,000 brushes, $800 brushes, He would sell them. And my buddy Frank bought his first airbrush, Iwata airbrush. He bought it off of this guy whose name was Matt. He bought it off of Matt, and it was an older one, but amazing airbrush. The Neo comes along, and they were at Hobby Lobby with a coupon. You could get them really cheap. And then also my buddy Andy at Andy's Hobby Headquarters, he started carrying them at a really reasonable price. Both Matt, that artist, and Frank, they bought them. And Matt was thinking, I'm going to get this it's a cheap, whatever it was, like $80. He goes, just as a backup, or one that I can take like he would do, go to other shops, or he might go do touch-ups somewhere. He thought that would be a good brush to have just as a backup or whatnot. And they both got them. They brought them in the shop, and they started, they kind of tore them apart and compared them to the high-end Iwatas. It says almost exactly the same as the Eclipse.
Yep.
Just was like one different, and like one dial-in area for the needle. That's a little different on the Eclipse. Other than that, it was almost exactly the same. It's just like, it's a Chinese model. It's made with lower level parts. The tolerances aren't exactly the same, but that brush will do just about everything you need it to do.
Yeah.
The thing, like guy like Matt, that artist, it would probably last, if he was like to really put it into service, it would last him a couple of weeks and he'd blow it away. For me, from a lot of us, again, I've had it since 2009, and it's still a wonderful airbrush. Yep. And I bought that one with a really small tip and needle because I wanted to do really small. Like one thing that they both showed me is what you could do with that is the way you set it, and you like take the crown off, and you can get really close, and you can draw almost a thin pencil line with it.
Yep.
It's like, I need one of those. So I bought that. I still had my other airbrush, which was a Badger, for doing larger stuff. But at that time, I got into actually using an automotive touch-up gun. I was shooting a lot with that with my bodies. And Frank started giving me crap about it. He says, why don't you get another brush and start using that and just shoot your paint and your 2K clear and everything through the airbrush, and you're going to find a lot better control.
Yeah.
And then eventually what I did is my buddy Chuck from Chuck's Hobby Spot, he's got tons of airbrushes, and he happened to have one with the 0.5, same exact Neo, and he gave that to me. So then I had that, and that one now I shoot full bodies, and then I keep my other one because I was originally gonna get the brush and the needle and change out, and I don't do that. Why don't you you can have this? Oh, yeah. Thanks. Then I don't have to. It's nice to have two of them.
Yep.
And that brush, I've shot some bodies with that, and it just does wonderful. I didn't even think about there was paint you couldn't use through. I've shot everything through it. Yep. I put tons of lacquer thinner. That's what I clean my brushes out with. Is I always have a jug of lacquer thinner for that.
Yep.
And I have not had any issues with those two brushes. I haven't replaced any parts.
Nope.
A lot of time, I don't bust them completely apart and clean them.
I don't either. I backflip it, wipe it out.
Yeah, run them too. The less you take apart, the better. Especially those because of that cheaper metals they're made out of.
Yeah.
And
I tell everyone, the Neo will do what you need, but
Yep.
the Eclipse is more user friendly.
Right. Yes.
So
But
get the Neo if you're learning. After that, if you want to upgrade, go for it.
yeah, I would love to get an Eclipse one day.
Yeah.
We will see. Maybe.
I'll get one eventually, but there's no need right now. Like,
yeah, the Neo does the job for the level that I do airbrushing with. That thing's gonna last me till the day I die. I'm sure it'll get handed down to Felix. So my last airbrush, I've only owned a couple. The airbrush I had before that, it's still a great airbrush, very functional, is a Badger 150 or 200, I can't remember, model. I bought it in the late 80s, and that was my airbrush for 30 some odd years. And the only reason why I don't want it and wanted to go to the Eclipse, or not the Eclipse, but the Neo, is because that was siphon feed. I wanted to go get into gravity feed.
Yep.
That was it. That was the only thing about that old brush it's still in great shape and can be used anytime.
Yeah.
So you take care of them, man. They'll last you forever.
Yeah, exactly. Granted, I have other airbrushes. Like, heck, right there, I have the Galeri or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I got that as a door prize at a show, and then under that is way more higher end Iwata than I thought I would ever have. That Frank from Frank's Model Works gave me.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's nice.
That one will get broke out on my next lowrider, but that's something I got to work on.
yeah, definitely. What you've got planned ahead now? You're going to be hitting a lot of shows, some of the big major shows. You got certain models you got in your head that you want to kind of blow everybody away with?
So as far as shows, I was supposed to be at NNL West.
Really?
I was. And then work is still a little shady, so layoffs are still possible. So me and the wife decided it was best to cancel that one. You know, granted it was the last one, but it was better to play it safe.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yep. But other than that, I will be at NNL East. That's already booked. Hotel rooms paid for. I'll be there the whole weekend. Before that, I have the Model Cars and Coffee that Ricky Wallace is putting on.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
Yep, that'll be the first one. I mean, vendor table sold out in under 24 hours.
No kidding.
So,
awesome.
Yep. But there's no awards. It's get together, hang out, talk models, all that. So that'll be awesome. Then in May, I have the Mid-Atlantic NNL that I'll be at. That's in Havre de Grace, Maryland. That's 40 minutes from my house, and it's my home club now, so I'll be there. September, I have the Super September Showdown. That is my original home club's show up in PA. I'll always be there. Iceman usually sponsors some stuff up there. That's the one I always sponsor the junior trophy for. So then the agreement was if we skip NNL West, we will be at Acme.
Nice.
So the plan is to leave about a week ahead of Acme, go to Tennessee for, 4 or 5 days, enjoy Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, all that in the mountains, then get to Atlanta, stay there till, if I have my way, we'll be there till Monday because I don't feel like driving home on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, we kind of hit a dead season here, and hopefully we can find something else. That there's something in the works for that dead season. I can't disclose that just yet.
Yeah.
But hopefully it does happen. Outside of that, as far as builds, Chris Collar gave me one of the Bad Boy C6R Corvette models from Studio 27. He has there's one that's majority yellow with black accents, and then there's a majority black with the yellow accents. I have the yellow one. He kept the black one, and our plan is to have them done for NNO East. It's just like a buddy build.
Oh, cool.
Outside of that, I still have Jason's from Blue Ox, his muscle car build or street machine build. I never finished that. That I want to have done for NNL East. I have the 74 Camaro conversion that I want to have done for NNL East.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Have done for NNL East.
Whether
the GTO build is probably the closest to being done. The 74 is the furthest. My street machine build for Jason's group build, I'm doing a really simple paint. I call it simple. it's a solid paint job. There's no metallics in this car at all. But some of the striping that I designed on the hood is, so it's military green car, and I got black and bright yellow stripes to accent the front end. The issue is when I went to go clear the hood separately, I had not cleaned out my airbrush sufficiently, and it shot metallic all through the clear. So that's going to get redone, and we'll see if that makes it. But the GTO should be there, the Corvette should be there, and I have a cartooned Miata that should be there. And
nice.
that's actually a replica of a real friend's car. So that'll get given to him after it does a couple shows and, you know, just kind of makes an appearance.
Oh, that's cool. That's nice. I tell you, and you haven't been to Acme yet, have you?
I have. I've been twice.
You have been to Acme? What years were you at Acme?
I was there. My first year would have been, let's see, I missed this last year. So 2022 was my first time going. Me and Chris Collins kind of hightailed it down. That was the last year at the old location. So we shot down there a day before the there was a big dirt race in Charlotte that we hit. Stayed the night in Charlotte and then beelined it for Atlanta. Got there, I want to say we got there like 6 o'clock in the morning. Went straight to the venue, stood in line, went the whole day at the show. Then thought it was the best idea to jump in the car and immediately drive 12 hours home.
Oh.
We did not make it home.
No.
So we went in 2022. There was some feather ruffling going on because we were, I think, third in line to get in. So we got prime spots for our models to be on display. And about an hour after running around, we didn't, neither of us thought to stop at the ATM. So we ran around the vendors. And we're like, hey, we'll buy this, but can you hold it for an hour? Because we got to go to the ATM. Everyone was cool about it. Vendors there have been awesome, every interaction I've ever had. But when we came back, our models had been moved. And it wasn't, at that point, the judges weren't moved. Like, I say judges, it's a non-judge show, but
right, the
judges weren't moving cars. So this was done by someone else. Well, this was one of the few times that having the name on the ticket, I immediately went to. Well, one of them was a vendor. Chris went and had some choice words for him because he moved. Chris built a pretty detailed Stroh's Light Firebird Pro Stock. Well, that guy had moved it and had damaged it. So Chris had some choice words with him. And then there is a owner of an online distributing company that I won't name just out of respect for him, but he had moved one of my models and I could not find him. But at the end of the day, we had a good time. It was awesome to make it to Acme. And I ended up getting my first lowrider, my 59 Impala, in Fine Scale Modeler from there. Now, I'm from Glen Burnie, Maryland, and they had messed up the name. So in the magazine, this 59 Impala was built by Glen Burnie. But it is what it is. In 2023, so my grandma has always been like a huge supporter with my models. Always would take me to shows when my parents wouldn't and all that. Well, I offered to take her to Acme with me. I'm like, I'll pay for everything. I don't care. Like, do you want to go? She agreed. So me, my wife, my grandmother, and my best friend at the time left for Acme, did, I think, 2 days in Tennessee, and then went to Acme, did the show, and came home on Sunday. That was the first year at the new venue, and it was incredible. It was massive. And then crazy enough, with New Jersey being so close, NNL East, I'd never been until last year.
No kidding.
Yep. So I finally made it there, and that wasn't a letdown at all. That was worth every bit of it.
I've never heard anybody being bummed about the NNL East.
Not at all. That's actually where I met Jason for the first time, too. We met at NNL East last year.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, Acme, I went, I've only been once, and I went the year before you did, and it was life-changing. It was great. I've been going to model shows since the late 80s. Greatest model show I ever went to.
Yep.
Had the most fun. It was special to me because my heart's in that side of the country. I only spent a couple years there in the early 90s, and I'm really hoping to get back there soon. It's where I want to live, where I still have a lot of great dear friends. And I got to see people that, got to meet face to face a lot of dear friends that I've made because of what we do. Then also got to see a couple of old friends that were very close back in the early 90s. I lived in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
And that made it just the most amazing weekend of my life.
Yeah.
Definitely my older years. So I'm really, really hoping to be able to make it to this year's show. And I am building for this year's show. And that'd be cool. You guys there. I can't wait to meet you and everyone else in who I hadn't met yet. And I love meeting everybody. It's so great.
I always try to fly under the radar at shows because it's, in my opinion, if you want the best quality show, you go to Acme. If you want the biggest show I've ever seen was NNL East. It's huge.
Oh, yeah.
But I always flew under the radar until NNL East. And that's when I met like Tim Kalenkowitz. I met Bob Jernigan.
Oh, yeah.
Me and him talked for probably 2 hours, and he introduced me to a million different people. To people that I'd only heard of, had no idea they were even on the same property as me at that point.
Yeah.
It was awesome. So
yeah, that really is, people who say I don't go to shows, it's like you got to go to shows because the great people you get to meet and then friendships that you create. Not only does it, help your hobby out and you learn so many things, but it's more than that. It's just like we all have this common interest. We're all extremely passionate about these little plastic cars.
Yep.
And it really bonds us all. And it really creates, we're immediately always just buddies right off the bat because of that.
Well, that's Frank from Frank Model Works I met at NNL East, and we've probably seen each other, I don't know how many times now, but every time we walk up, like we're best buds, hang out, talk, how are each other doing, all that.
Oh, yeah, I know. First time I ever talked to Frank, and this always happens lots of times when I had him come on this show, and sometimes I will have a phone conversation. I'll give, them a call. Oh, and I say to myself, please, just 15, 20 minutes. Nope. I got on with Frank 3 hours.
Yep.
Easily gone. Just immediately felt like, oh, well, I've known you forever.
Yep.
We had the same views about everything. We talked about everything. And it just seems like everybody's like that. Everybody that I can't get on the phone with them. I can't do these shows. And I can't make these shows like a half hour. It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's too much cool, epic stuff to talk about with just model cars. It's amazing how just that interest alone bonds so many people. It's
crazy to see the older guys that still gatekeep because the community since I was growing up has changed outrageously.
Oh, it has.
There's still guys that gatekeep. There always will be. But for the most part, if you go to a show, there's not a single person there that is going to be gatekeeping.
Yeah.
And if they are, they're the guy that's sitting off by themselves.
Yeah, exactly. There isn't this thing, secrets. No, you come up to me, come up to you. I know you'd be that way. Any of the guys, whoa, that's amazing. How'd you like Mark Batson and his, when I was at Acme and his petty car that was still in the shop, still all raw metal and everything that he did.
Yep.
And the funny thing about that is the whole time he was building it, him and I were talking on the phone. He was sending me pictures and I knew how he was doing it and how he was getting that look and how he used All-Clad.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like looking at it and I'm like, Mark, I got to know, how did you, this part, how'd you make that out of metal? Like, how'd you cut that? And he goes, dude, I sent you pictures. That's plastic. I painted that with All-Clad. Oh man, it just tricked the eye.
Yeah.
But you go up to Mark, anybody could go up to him and go, how did you do that? And he'll go, all right, well, let me explain.
Yep.
And then you're there for a while and you learn.
Yep.
And that's how everybody is, man. You never get, but even in the late 80s, that was kind of like going away. Because I have to say, my first show I went to, I was 20, 21, 22 years old. I go to the show in Southern California that had all these guys that I saw, and all we had was scale auto enthusiasts. All these guys that I had read about that were Southern California modelers that were always in scale auto, I met them all. And I could ask them anything. And I learned just going to that show, my model building changed.
Yep.
And it is every time we go to shows, you see stuff that you go home, you get excited and you go, I'm going to go try this out. Now it gave me an idea to do that. So it's constantly with constant inspiration. And now it's inspiration freaking overload. That's why I can't get anything done. Because now it's not just every once in a while going to a model show and getting every other month scale auto enthusiasts. Now we got Facebook group. Every morning I turn it on and have to, hunt down things. And I see great stuff.
Something I keep saying in the group is if you're asking for advice, you might get 100 replies. Click on everyone's name, see what their builds are, and make sure that they are getting the results that you're looking for before you listen to their advice. And I get where some guys are saying, well, car builders don't own their own cars. I get that. But why would you take advice from somebody that cannot prove their work when this guy can and can at least get you in the right direction? It might not work for you 100%, but you can modify that to fit how you need to do it.
Yeah. You're 100% right. And for me, and you said it too, when we were starting out, it was the guys that were winning the awards at the big shows that I was fortunate enough to have in my club, and sound like you did too. Those were the guys that I want to be friends with. Those guys, I want to build that level. I want to hear everything they have to say. I want to drop my model car down and go, tell me the truth and say the bads. Tell me what sucks. Because I want to make it better. You're using Rust-Oleum on that, which I have never used Rust-Oleum, but anyways, using it as an example. Yeah, you got to really stop using that. Why don't you try some Tamiya out? And I'm not going to go, well, gosh, the Tamiya is, no, I want my stuff to be better. And if those guys say that's the stuff that they're not telling you, they're suggesting it to you. If you don't want to, fine, whatever. Then
exactly.
Then cease asking questions.
If you're happy with your results, that's what matters.
I love helping people out, and I will give anything I've done. I'll tell them how I did it. I will give them my thoughts, and I give them my opinions. If you ask me and then you don't like what I said, and I'm not going to do that. Well, okay, then don't ask me anymore. I'm not gonna pay attention to you.
That's me and Chris have multiple times. So our club that we go to, we used to have demonstrations. Bill Gray did multiple. Marcus Cruz did multiple. Lyle Willits did multiple.
Boy.
They want to bring it back. And I'm like, okay, well, here's the deal. There are multiple guys that I have sat and explained how to paint and how to buff for hours. But I haven't seen it in practice. So if I explain this to you, I at least want to see you try. If it doesn't work, come back to me. Tell me what happened. I will give you every suggestion that I can think of to get the better result. And that's my biggest thing. I want to see you try.
And at least give it a try. Don't shut it down right away. And you came to me with these questions, but then you don't want to give it a shot.
Exactly.
Well, then you keep getting the same result with what you're doing. About it. And then don't have resentment towards us who build at the level that we build and have our finish. We have finish. And big thing is, as you know, about paint, it's like rule number 1 about having an epic paint job is don't skip a step. Don't skip a step. There's a lot of steps, and you can't skip one of them.
Well, we do. It's called Skills USA. It's for the automotive trade, or it's all the trades, but the automotive one we still go and we judge at our local trade schools. And there's 3 levels. Well, there's 4 levels. There's regionals, there's states, there's nationals, and there's internationals. So I'm one of the judges at the paint department in the states for Maryland.
Oh wow, that's
one cool. Of the at the end we always give pointers, what we saw that they could do better on. And the whole thing that we stress is paint starts with your foundation, just like a house. If you build a house on a bad foundation, it'll never last. Same for a paint job. You put that paint down on a good foundation, you're golden. You know, it'll last, it'll look good. Of course, you're going to need to make tweaks here and there, but you'll figure it out from there. And, you know, these kids are doing awesome these days. So that's, as far as that side of things, stuff's going in the right direction.
That's great to know. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Lewis, I really appreciate you coming on. It's great hearing from basically your point of view. You're not really, although you kind of are, but you're not, you know, usually I have social influencers on here in the hobby. You know, they have a YouTube channel, they have pages. You don't have anything like that. You just build your stuff, you go to shows, and you post all over on our Facebook group.
Yeah.
So your name is getting out there. I hear so many people talking about you, and then also the work you've done with doing box art and stuff. And I know me and Joel from Iceman talk about you, and he has no great things to say about you. He's he's a great guy. He's a great guy. I told him that we were going to be doing that. He goes, "Oh, that's so cool." So you've kind of like not the ordinary guests that I have on. So you don't really have anything to plug but your building. Now people know what you look like.
Yep.
And, you see Lewis at a show, go over and talk to him. He will talk to you.
Yep, exactly.
He's super, you know, one of the good guys that make the hobby great and putting out great models for a couple of years. You've been getting noticed by that. We've all seen it and inspired. But you're working for the Colmers over there at Auto Modeler Magazine, which is really cool. I know Scott was really excited about discovering you and having you do some stuff for him. So I know Scott's really big into, you know, kind of where that phrase came up. He's the one who kind of stuck it in my head, the young guns.
Yeah.
It's true, because really you guys are the ones that are going to keep this hobby going the way it's going. It's going really in brute force right now, heading down the rails. It's chugging along very well. Yeah. There's no sign of this thing dying.
Definitely a golden age right now.
Oh, 100%. I always call like the 80s when I came in, it was amazing time for the hobby. I call that the renaissance of the hobby. That's when it started. It kind of evolved from being a thing for kids, for children, a toy in the toy stores were model kits, evolving into an adult hobby. And that was the whole point of Scale Auto Enthusiast coming out in 1978, 79. And Gary Schmidt, that was his push. He wanted to show that this is a hobby for serious adults. It's not an immature thing. It's not a little kid thing, by all means. Love the kids. We like them to come in.
Yep.
Kids being the future, yes and no, but definitely the younger people coming in the hobby, like you touched it a little bit. You were gone for a while. You come back in your mid-20s and whatnot. And you guys are the ones that are going to carry it on. And it's great that you're getting involved in the magazine, because that'll give you probably a little seed. Who knows what you'll do down the line, you know? That's when I feel really happy about it, about the sport here, is when we see guys in their 20s being this serious about it. And you got a whole clan of them now. You guys are a group, man.
Yep. That's hopefully at Acme. There's talks of 5 to 8 of us getting a house together down there.
That's awesome.
So that'll be awesome.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. Well, if there's anything you want to plug, or I'm just now's the time. And also, I think what I got to throw to you, well, you don't have a page or nothing. You got nothing to plug, but what do you do for the magazine, for Auto Modeler Magazine?
So right now I'm just doing kit reviews. Me and Scott have been talking about some other articles that we're probably going to do here in the future, but they're at least 2 to 3 months out. So maybe 3 issues away to actually getting them published. But outside of that, just right now doing kit reviews. When ideas pop in my head, I'll email Scott. We'll discuss it back and forth, and everything's going from there.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. I like to see that you're getting involved like that. You're definitely one of the guys that definitely need to do that with the level of building that you do, and how much you're getting, catching a lot of eyes. Well, I tell you, thanks a bunch for coming on. And you do know that I put my guests kind of in a predicament at the end of this. Are you aware? Are you prepared?
I'm
Do you know
not.
anything that you got to say my little calling off thing? I'll bring you up to the front here. Let's let you end this thing.
All right. Well, keep gluing your fingers together, cutting that styrene, and we'll see you next time.
That's perfect. It works good. And here's the producer.